In your own users. Mark Zuckerberg did not succeed in Facebook because he was an expert in startups. He succeeded despite being a complete noob at startups. I mean, Facebook was first incorporated as a Florida LLC. Right? Even you guys know better than that. He succeeded despite being a complete noob at startups because he understood his users very well. Hear anybody talk about growth hacks? Just mentally translate it in your mind into bullshit. Because what we tell them is the way to make your startup grow is to make something that users really love, right? And then tell them about it. Take over your life to a degree that you cannot imagine. And if it succeeds, it will take over your life for a long time. For several years at the very least, maybe a decade, maybe the rest of your working life. So there's a real opportunity cost here. It may seem to you that Larry Page has an enviable life, but there are parts of it that are definitely unenviable. The way the world looks to him is that he started running as fast as he could at age 25, and he has not stopped to catch his breath since. Every day, shit happens within the Google empire that only the emperor can deal with, and he, as the emperor, has to deal with it. If he goes on vacation for even a week, a whole backlog of shit accumulates, and he has to bear this uncomplainingly because, number one, as the company's daddy, he can never show fear or weakness, and number two, if you're a billionaire, you get zero, actually less than zero sympathy if you complain about having a difficult life. Which has this strange side effect that the difficulty of being a successful startup founder is concealed from almost everyone who's done it. People who win the 100 meters in the Olympics, like they walk up to them and they're going like, right? And like Larry Page is doing that too, but you never get to see it.
Do you remember when you first showed up in college, what you planned to do afterwards? Did you think you were going to go to graduate school, or did you think you were going to get a job? Were you going to go work for Google?
When I first went to college, I actually was planning on being a classics major. I loved classics in high school, Latin and Greek. I found it fascinating. And my sister actually did go on and do that, and she's now a PhD student in classics, and we talk about this all the time. It's just still fascinating to me. When I was in college, I actually wasn't a computer science major, I was a psychology major. I didn't really get around to taking that many classes because I left pretty quickly, and I actually ended up taking more computer science classes than psychology classes, but I was never, I don't know.
So you had no plan?
No, I mean...
You're going to be a barista?
No, I probably would have gotten an engineering job, is my sense, and
You'd have gotten sucked into programming?
Well, I mean, I like programming, and I really, growing up, I always had a lot of respect for Microsoft and what they built. And a lot of people from Harvard go to Microsoft and went to Microsoft, and maybe I would have done that. I don't know. It's really obviously hard to say. Later, I made this bet with my sister, Donna, the classics PhD I was talking about before, who I bet her when I was starting college before she was that, or she bet me that she would finish college before me. And I was like, all right, I'll take that bet. It's like I have a 2-year head start.
Bet that?
I don't know. And then after when I dropped out, I was talking to my mom, and she's like, yeah, no, I always knew you would drop out of college. I was like, oh, thanks, Mom. So,
did they mean
I don't know. Who knows?
That you would zoom out of the top or fall out of the bottom?
I never asked. Maybe I should.
Do you think your parents knew that you would always run your own show? Because sometimes you can
if you
tell.
ask them, I think they'd probably say yes. But
yeah. Did you want to start startups?
No, and I mean, I think that's actually a really interesting part of this for me is, and I mean, being at a place like this where obviously a lot of you guys are thinking about starting companies, and for me, so much of the lesson that I feel like I've learned is, I feel like it's really hard to decide to start a company, right? Facebook, I didn't start it to start a company. I started it because I really wanted this thing personally, and I believed that it should exist globally, although I wasn't quite sure that we would be able to play a role in doing that. And it was mostly just through kind of like wanting to build it and having it be this hobby and getting people around me excited that it eventually kind of evolved into and got the momentum to become a company. But I never really understood the psychology of deciding that you want to start a company before you understand what you want to do. And I know that's different from your philosophy on this.
No, believe me, I wish we would get more people who where the company started them rather than vice versa.
Because one of the issues is just once you I mean, this gets back to the question of why did we first open at colleges that had competitors? I have this big fear, I think, of getting locked into doing things that aren't actually the most impactful things. I mean, to me, this is like the trait that entrepreneurs have, is they just have this like laser-like ability to go find where they can have the most impact. And when you take on a new project, especially if you hire people or start a company, you're doing that project. And I mean, there are obviously different ways that it can exit and all that, but I think having the flexibility to explore a lot of different things, which you can do when you're in college, which is one of the amazing things about being in college, is you can work on all these hobbies and code a lot of stuff and try a lot of different things. It's this amazing flexibility that I think most people take for granted. And once you decide, okay, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do it with someone else, you immediately now need to convince someone else if you want to change your mind on something. And I think people really undervalue the option value and flexibility. So
stay in college.
I think explore what you want to do before committing is really like the key thing, and keep yourself flexible. And no, I think that's. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, but I think, and you can definitely do that within the framework of a company, but I think you have to be wary about starting a company too rigidly, because you're going to change what you do. I mean, people talk about pivots all the time as if it's like your thing didn't work, so you pivoted. Facebook pivoted many times. It's just that we were college, and then we were not college, and then we were just a website, and then we were a platform, right? And you're going to change what you do, right? And you just want to make sure that you have.
There's another word for the kind of pivots you were talking about, expansions.
Well,
right? That's not what people usually mean by pivoting.
Well, flexibility.
Yeah. I actually studied psychology at Harvard, not computer science, although a little bit of computer science. I've been programming since I was like 10, and I think that it kind of reached a point where it went into my intuition. I wasn't really thinking that much about it consciously. So that was pretty good. And then, when I started thinking about all the people issues, and doing psychology, and just like being in university and interacting with a lot of people, it just kind of occurred to me that this would be something that was interesting. And I knew how to do it, so I just did. It took me like a couple of weeks or even less to throw together the site. And I remember that by the time I was done throwing together the site, I had no idea how successful it would end up being. And I was actually thinking that after like day 8 or day 9, I had a different idea that I wanted to do, and I was going to scrap it and not do this. So I'm happy that I didn't do that. But so I think that it's more of like how you spend your time doing stuff type of question or type of answer than like something that I learned specifically from college. I made a ton of random things when I was at Harvard, and most of them no one ever saw. Like a lot of them just weren't meant for other people to see, and they were just things that I made for myself because I thought that they would be cool. I used to make stuff like a natural language interface to play my MP3s, or the thing I made before this was a hot or not program out of everyone's IDs at Harvard that almost got me kicked out. But so I don't know. I spent a lot of time making random stuff, and I think that definitely made it so that by the time it came time to like make this random project, I was pretty well tuned towards making that. In terms of managing this whole process, nothing. Nothing. Like I have no idea what I'm doing.
I think successful entrepreneurs probably come in all sizes, shapes, and flavors. I'm not sure there's any one particular thing. For me, some of the things I've described already, I think, are very important. I think really an obsessive nature with respect to the quality of the product is very important. So, being obsessive compulsive is a good thing in this context. Really liking what you do, whatever area that you get into. Given that even if you're the best, there's always a chance of failure. So I think it's important that you really like whatever you're doing. If you don't like it, life is too short. I'd say and also if you like what you're doing, you think about it even when you're not working. It's something that your mind is drawn to. And if you don't like it, you just really can't make it work, I think.